Police uncover syndicate that recruited overseas scammers to defraud the elderly. Flags to fly half-mast as the nation remembers former Premier Zhu Rongji ahead of his cremation Tuesday. And death toll continues to climb following a 7.7 magnitude earthquake in Indonesia. Good evening. Welcome to TVB News. Police arrest 17 people on suspicion of conspiring to defraud, including 30 Malaysians who were recruited overseas by the fraud syndicate. Mimosang reports.
In the operation, the police seized $3.67 million after raiding 3 locations run by the syndicate in Mongkok. Investigation shows the syndicate hired Malaysians to come to Hong Kong to take part in its scamming activities. Their role was to collect money from the elderly who received calls from the group, claiming their family members or friends had been arrested by the police and needed cash. The police caught 12 of them during an arrest. The police says the group collected a total of $4.67 million from 3 Mongkok sites, including a virtual currency exchange center and currency exchange shop between June and Friday. On Friday, authorities arrested 5 suspects. 4 were locals acting as the site's operators and staff, while the other person ran errands. The force says they have noticed some currency exchange shops may be used by syndicates for handling scam fund. It reminds operators to pay attention to any suspicious cash or virtual currency transactions and report it to authorities in accordance with regulations. Mimosang, TVB News.
Director of Immigration Benson Kwok says after the new Hong Kong port building is put into use, it will help divert some of the passenger flow from the current overburdened land border checkpoints. He also reveals a European female tennis player has become a Hong Kong resident through the Quality Migrant Admission Scheme. Alina Wang has more.
Hong Kong's cross-border passenger numbers have hit new highs in recent years, with several land border checkpoints exceeding their capacity. Director of Immigration Benson Kwok states on a TVB program that the new Hong Kong port building, which is expected to handle 300,000 passengers per day, will help divert some of the passenger flow. He says many Hong Kong residents, especially the elderly, can take buses to the Huan Yang Wei checkpoint for just $2, which makes the checkpoint very popular. The future Hong Kong port will have similar features and serve the same group of people. The new port building requires travelers to pass through only 1 customs checkpoint with 3 gates inside. There is little delay in clearance systems between Hong Kong and the mainland. It takes about 20 seconds to fully pass the gates, eliminating the need to queue multiple times. As for the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge checkpoint, which is currently piloting a seamless clearance system, Kwok says more than 50,000 people have used it in the past 2 months. The results are satisfactory and the system may be extended in the future.
Hello everybody, I am Jimmy White.
In addition, internationally renowned snooker player Jimmy White has recently become a Hong Kong resident through the QMAS. Benson Kwok says from 2023 to the first half of this year, 138 active or retired athletes have been brought in, among whom more than 10 are snooker players. He also reveals a European female tennis player has recently become a Hong Kong resident and will come to Hong Kong to compete in November. Alina Wang, TVB News.
Financial Secretary Paul Chan says Hong Kong welcomed 3.5 million visitors to attend more than 170 exhibitions in the first half of this year. On his weekly blog, Chen says that the city's mega events helped attract a greater number of visitors, reaching more than 31.22 million in the first 7 months, a year-on-year rise of 12%. Meanwhile, the Hong Kong International Airport recorded more than 200,000 aircraft movements in the first half of the year, a yearly rise of 4.4%. The body of former Premier Zhu Rongji, who died last week, will be cremated on Tuesday in Beijing, according to the Xinhua news agency. Flags will fly at half-staff in Tiananmen Square and government buildings in the capital, as well as in the provinces and autonomous regions. The Hong Kong SAR government has also announced that all flags of the central government offices, Government House, the boundary control and checkpoints, as well as the Hong Kong International Airport, will be flown at half-staff on Tuesday to honour the late former Premier. At least 51 people have been killed in the magnitude 7.7 earthquake that struck off the coast of Indonesia early Saturday, as authorities allude to the likelihood of more deaths as search and rescue efforts continue. Chinese authorities say 3 Chinese nationals have reportedly lost their lives in the quake. Meanwhile, Indonesians are assessing the damage to their homes, setting up temporary shelters while rescue efforts are still ongoing. Alina Wang reports.
Indonesians assessed the damage to their homes in East Nusa Tenggara on Sunday and began clearing the destruction left after the powerful earthquake that hit Flores region. In Manggarai Barat, people searched through their collapsed homes, retrieving items from the rubble. Families pitched tents outside, with many structures no longer habitable. Tents were also set up outside Siloam Hospital to treat the injured after earthquake. The magnitude 7.7 quake, according to Meteorological Agency, was followed by 235 aftershocks by Saturday afternoon, with the largest reaching magnitude 6.2.
When earthquake, I'm in the room. My room is in the first floor, so I just run away from the room. Because I live in Japan, so there are a lot of earthquakes in Japan. So I have experienced a lot of earthquakes before, but I think this time maybe it's the biggest one, bigger than any earthquake I experienced in Japan.
Authorities say dozens more residents were injured and warned that the death toll would almost certainly rise. Indonesia is prone to earthquakes and volcanic activity because of its location on the Ring of Fire, an arc of volcanoes and fault lines in the Pacific Basin. Most notably, a powerful earthquake caused tsunami in 1992 that killed 2,500 people on Flores, while in 2018, a magnitude 7.5 quake triggered another tsunami that wiped out coastal areas, killing more than 4,000 people. Alina Wang, TVB News.
And still ahead, the UN condemns Afghanistan's treatment of women and girls as the Taliban marks the 5th year of its return to power. UK Prime Minister calls for refrain from judgment following death of former Cambridge professor. And Zanwai Barracks hosts military summer camp closing ceremony. Welcome back. Taliban rulers and other officials gathered at Afghanistan's traditional Loya Jirga Assembly Hall to celebrate the 5th anniversary of their return to power, touting it having brought stability and an end to conflict after decades of upheaval. Public celebrations were also spotting across the country. This, as a top United Nations official condemned the group, warning of grave human rights crisis amid questionable treatment of women and girls. Taliban celebrates the 5th anniversary of its seizing power with an assembly at the Loya Jirga in Kabul, where high-ranking officials were joined by some foreign representatives and thousands of ordinary citizens for speeches marking what they said was Afghanistan's liberation from American forces. Amir Khan Muttaqi, foreign minister of the Taliban government, says Afghanistan is standing on its own feet across different sectors. Its security forces are growing stronger by the day, its economy is stabilizing, and mutual trust is increasing. He goes on to say, for those countries that have not yet engaged with the Taliban, it would be in their interest to come forward to do so. Meanwhile, celebrations were held in provinces across Afghanistan, where men are seen waving Taliban flags and chanting slogans in praise of the Taliban's return to power were displayed along major roads and marketplaces. Visibly missing from the scenes are women and girls. The United Nations has taken the opportunity to warn of the human rights violation against women in the country.
The Taliban's systematic repression of women and girls has become a defining feature of the current system. Afghanistan remains the only country in the world where girls are banned from secondary and higher education through an ever-expanding web of discriminatory decrees that further entrench discrimination and weaken women's legal protections. The Taliban continues to strip women and girls of their rights, dignity, and agency.
UN says 2.4 million girls and women are denied an education. Women have also been banned from public spaces such as gyms and parks, from taking part in sports and traveling to distant locations without a male guardian. UN findings from a recent survey of Afghan women show half of whom leave the confines of their homes only once or twice a month. This despite having pledged before the takeover that women would be allowed access to education, employment and public participation. 5 years on, the Taliban government has remained isolated internationally, with Russia being the only country to have recognized it formally. Iranian Foreign Ministry has framed the turmoil in the Strait of Hormuz the fallout of the US and Israel's illegal actions, while condemning the Pentagon's naval blockade as an act of aggression. This after the Islamic Republic's Deputy Foreign Minister rejects US President Donald Trump's remarks of turning the strait into a US territory following Iran's defeat. Iran is putting the blame on the US and Israel for causing instability by exploiting the Hormuz Strait and nearby areas to orchestrate their attacks. The US maritime blockade against Iranian ports has been described by Tehran as a breach to the peace memorandum. Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister for Legal and International Affairs, Kazem Garibabadi, points on X that the Strait of Hormuz will remain closed and opened only under Iran's authority, in response to Trump saying he would soon declare it a US territory. An Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman points out the waterway was fully open before the US and Israel conducted illegal military operations, and maintains Iran, as a literal state, can rightfully take all necessary actions to safeguard national interests and security. He also reveals substantial progress has been reached in Iran-Oman negotiations after the two sides inked a deal on the navigation scheme for ships transiting the strait. Meanwhile, an Iranian military commander says on Saturday that Qatar has captured 3 Iranian bomber pilots who were shot down in March during a combat mission against a US base in the Gulf state. Amid Tehran's public demand seeking their release, Qatari Foreign Ministry spokesman Majed Al-Ansari says the country categorically denies claims regarding the detention of the aircrew concerned, stating contacts have been established with them after they violated Qatar's airspace and authorities confirmed the trajectory of the targeting. Authorities are carrying out operations to search for the remains of the aviators. The spokesman confirms Qatar has communicated with Iran over coordinating the handover of a 4th pilot who was found dead. In the Red Sea, escalated deadly attacks by Iran-backed Houthi rebels have halted operations at Yemen's Mocha port, a crucial entry point for commercial goods and supplies bound for government-held areas. The operator of the port in southwestern Taiz province tells reporters that there was direct shelling of the pier and wooden vessels with 5 missiles, alongside an attempted targeting by a drone. He says some berths, warehouses and the port's own maintenance workshops were damaged. The initial losses in the first 3 stages of offensives are estimated at about $16 million, and Friday evening strikes will add a large amount to the figure. Houthi claims the operation targeted military build-ups and weapons depot of so-called Saudi-backed Yemeni government forces. Yemeni authorities refutes that account, condemning the militia's new terrorist aggression targeting a vital civilian facility. At least 5 people have died as a result of storms and flooding in the US state of Indiana last week. Rivers reached record levels and sent residents in search of higher grounds, while some floodwaters were receding north of Indianapolis. Flash flood warnings and watches remain in place Saturday across large parts of central Indiana. Governor Mike Braun says President Donald Trump intends to approve the state's request for federal help in response to the flooding and recovery. The National Weather Services reports that more than 11 inches or 28 centimeters of rain fell over a 2-day period in some areas. Britain's Prime Minister calls for reflection after the death of Jason Arday, Cambridge's youngest black professor, days after resigning amid accusations of plagiarism and allegations of fabricated accomplishments. Prime Minister Andy Burnham says Arday's death was a tragedy on so many levels. Gloria Fang has more.
Jason Arde was found dead Friday after he resigned earlier as professor of sociology of education. For weeks, the media reported allegations of plagiarism in the 41-year-old's academic work and questioned claims about his athletic and fundraising accomplishments. His death has prompted criticism of race-motivated hostility to diversity, equity, and inclusion policies at universities and other institutions. Addressing Arde's passing, UK Prime Minister Andy Burnham calls for restraint from making judgments at this time.
It's a moment for reflection, I would say, reflecting on how things came to this. A really sad and sorry state of affairs, and I think we just all today think of Jason, his contribution.
Those who knew Arde says he's been under tremendous stress since questions about his credentials were raised.
He came to me a year ago because this has been going on for him for 3.5 years. As soon as he became professor at Cambridge, there were those people who didn't believe that there should be a black person in that role.
Another individual in his circle says Arde has been vulnerable since his resignation on August 5th.
Stories run across the full political spectrum of our media after his resignation in circumstances where his friends were publicly warning media outlets of how vulnerable he is.
Cambridge Vice-Chancellor Deborah Prentice, who earlier announced the university will investigate the circumstances around Arde's employment, says she was desperately saddened by the news. Reporting about Arde began to surface last month after Nathan Kovnas, a one-time Cambridge philosophy researcher and critic of diversity programs, raised questions about Arde's qualifications. Newspapers soon published stories alleging more than 100 passages from Arde's 2015 PhD thesis were identical or near identical to an earlier paper written by another researcher. He denied plagiarism, but admitted to making some mistakes when working on his doctorate. British media, including the Liberal Guardian newspaper, then raised wider questions about Arde's history, including statements that he had raised £5.5 million for charity by running 30 marathons in 35 days, claims he later revised. Some also questioned claims that he had overcome developmental delays that left him nonverbal until the age of 11 and unable to read or write until age 18. Gloria Fung, TVB News.
An organization urges the government to provide electronic appliances to low-income families as a means to help them cool down under the hot weather. At the end of June, Carbon Care InnoLab and Subdivided Flat Support Network conducted a 20-day survey to track 86 families in 9 districts through temperature and humidity monitoring. They found the average temperature recorded in the surveyed families exceeded 29 degrees. About 80% of family carers stated that they had experienced heat discomfort, while nearly 90% thought air conditioning expenses were a burden. Sources say police arrested a 14-year-old boy on suspicion of abusing and killing a pet cat. It is understood that the cat belonged to the boy's classmate who had asked him to take care of the pet temporarily while they were out of town. Sources say the suspect brought an 8-month-old cat to a Shanhui Po veterinary clinic last week. A vet found the cat was soaking wet and suffered from ascites. Bloodstains were also spotted around the cat's mouth and nose. The cat later died, and the clinic reported the case to the police. It is understood that the student kicked and hit the cat in the Chengsha 1 unit. Sanwai Barracks hosts a closing ceremony for the 19th Military Summer Camp for Hong Kong youth and the 13th Hong Kong University Student Military Life Experience Camp. Annie Zeldin was there.
The 19th Military Summer Camp for Hong Kong Youth and the 13th Hong Kong University Student Military Life Experience Camp hold a closing ceremony at Sanwai Barracks. The camps aim to teach youths discipline, patriotism, and military skills. During the closing ceremony, the students showcased drills they learned. The students say these drills are not the only thing they learned in the 2-week camp. They were also taught about responsibilities and cooperation, as their training did not stop even during the hottest days.
I've got a heat stroke, and I was very worried because I may delay the practices. But to my surprise, my teammates did not give up on me, and they really helped me to go over this obstacle. And through this challenge, I've learned the importance of durability, compassion, and the importance of cooperation. I will definitely keep in touch with my friends because every tear, every drop of our sweat has its memories.
There was even one Pakistani student who took part in training.
特区政府重视爱国主义教育。
Chief Executive John Lee says, the government values education and patriotism and has been organizing a series of events in July. He hopes the students will always keep the interest of the nation and Hong Kong in mind and serve as steadfast guardians who are loyal to the country and the party.
The authorities say they are proud of the students who took part in the camp that is important to cultivate a sense of patriotism from a young age. And this is TVB News.
And that's the news. Thank you for watching.